Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful Beauty and the Beast cake. This is part of a Beauty and the Beast collaboration with some of my friends here on YouTube. The playlist to everybody's videos is down in the description, so make sure to click on it and check everybody out. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we are going to get started. So here I have a 6-inch round pan and an 8-inch round pan. These are from Wilton. You can choose to do your cake at any size that you want. You can make it smaller than mine or even larger. I'm going to start out by putting in some vegetable shortening. You can also use butter if you want to. And I'm going to go ahead and brush this all around the sides of my pan, and this is going to help the cake come out very smoothly. I'm not worrying about putting too much of this on the bottom of the pan, just around the edges. And I have this piece of parchment paper. You can also use wax paper. And this fits the inside of my pan, and this is just going to make it for the cake to come out very nicely. You want to do this for every layer of your cake, so I personally did this 4 times. So here it is. I placed this on a cake board, and now it's time to cut the dome. Most cakes will rise in a dome shape, and for us to be able to stack the cake, we want it as flat as possible. So you can use a bread knife like this. This is a serrated knife, or you can use an actual cake leveler. It's pretty easy and simple to use. You just wiggle it through the cake and it just levels it out. Basically, you want to do this for all of the layers of your cake. So our cake is going to have 2 tiers, but it's going to have 4 layers. So like I mentioned before, you want your cake to sit on a cake board. The bottom tier is going to sit on a cake board that is a little bit bigger, just so that it's easier to grab and to carry around. And the top tiers are going to sit on cake boards that are the same size as the cake. So for my top tier, I used one of these and I just cut it so that it was the same size as the cake and it wasn't visible when the tier was on top of the bigger tier. So to glue the cake onto the cake board, I just put a little bit of frosting right underneath. So now we're going to move on to the filling. So my filling is actually just more frosting, but you can use any filling that you want. I just chose a vanilla cake with simple vanilla frosting. And then you just want to place the other layer right on top and as centered as possible. So here I put my cake on a decorating turning stand. This stand makes the world of a difference. So we are going to go ahead and do the crumb coat, and a crumb coat is just that. It is a coat of frosting that catches all of the crumbs. If you are doing a cake without fondant, then this crumb coat is crucial. So what we do is we put a lot of frosting onto the cake. You want to apply it very liberally to the top and to the bottom of the cake. Now to smooth it out, I use a spatula. And I like this one precisely because it has a nice sharp right angle and it just gets right into the corner of the cake. So what I do is I just put it right next to the cake and I leave it, or I try my best to leave it in one spot while I'm turning the cake, and it just helps you achieve very nice straight edges. To smooth out the top of the cake, I switched to a smaller spatula, but you can use the same spatula. I like to keep a napkin or a cloth handy just to wipe off the spatula from any extra frosting. So what I do is, working from the outside in, I just swipe in from the corners to create nice sharp edges, and I just wipe off the spatula here and there whenever I feel like I need to. So we're going to do this to both tiers, and we're going to put them into the refrigerator for 30 minutes or until it is nice and dry to the touch. So here is my cake and it has been 30 minutes, and this is my top tier. So I'm showing you here that I do have this on a cake board, and the frosting or the crumb coat that we did is nice and dry to the touch. We're going to do the same thing with the bottom tier as well. So now we're going to go ahead and do the final layer of frosting. And basically we do the same thing that we did with the crumb coats. So I take that same spatula, put it right up next to the cake, and just spin while the spatula grabs all of that extra frosting and makes it for nice smooth edges. And the same thing with the top of the cake, we just drag from the outside in. So now we're going to go ahead and get the fondant ready. I decided to use my white fondant and color it yellow, but if you don't want to, you can even buy fondant that is already colored yellow. It would make it so much easier. So you just want to roll out your fondant pretty thin. This is a really small rolling pin that I have. I do want to invest in a larger one, but it works for me and it gets the job done. So yeah, it's pretty good for now. You want to make sure that you have enough fondant rolled out so that it covers all of your cake. And when you're ready to put it on the cake, I just pull it back, bring the cake in, and swiftly, or as swiftly as I can, I put the fondant right on top. And then it kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety because I feel like I have to work pretty fast. But once the fondant is on there, then you want to take a fondant smoother and smooth the fondant out. So I always start on top and then I work my way to the sides. And as I am rotating the cake and as I'm working on the sides, I pull the fondant out a little bit just so that we don't have any wrinkles in the fondant. And then I just take a pizza cutter and I cut around the fondant just to remove all of that excess. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to cover both tiers in the fondant. And now it is time to mount the cake. So here I have a plastic dowel. You can use other things, but my personal favorite is the plastic dowel because I feel like it is super sturdy. I'm going to put 4 dowels in the cake and it's kind of gonna look like a button in the end. And I just take a pencil, I mark where the top of the cake is, and I cut. And so you want to do this 3 more times, and then you're gonna have 4 dowels in the cake. So here is mine. It's not a perfect square, but it will do. It's sturdy enough. I'm putting some frosting right in the middle of those dowels to act as a glue for my top tier. And now we are ready to decorate. This is my favorite part. Here I also just wanted to show you that my fondant cracks a little bit on the top tier because I didn't knead it enough. So you want to make sure to knead it a lot. I marked out where I wanted my draping to go. I made little dots. So in total, I'm going to have 4 drapes. So here I have some yellow and I'm going to add some white food coloring to it because I want it just a tiny, tiny bit lighter. If you don't have white food coloring, you can just add a little bit more white fondant to it to lighten it up. Here I have a rectangle and this is what I'm going to use to make my drapes. And then what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to go ahead and bend it like an accordion. And then you just want to go ahead and shape it into a smile. To add this onto the cake, it's really, really simple. You just want to add some frosting and then just stick it right on. Then I took some more of that lighter yellow and I added more white food coloring, and again you can add more white fondant to it, and I'm just making little discs, and these little discs are going to go in between the drapes. And to glue these on, I'm just going to add a little bit of water and just place it on there, and you just want to do this all the way around. Now I'm going to make little metallic beads, I guess. I'm using some luster dust, and yes, I dropped it all over the place. But this is some edible luster dust in the color Antique Gold, and basically I just made a bunch of little yellow fondant balls and just powdered them with some of this luster dust using a very fluffy brush. And now we're going to make some roses. Now I'm using some gum paste to make the roses. So I started out with a little ball, flattened it out, and then rolled it sort of like into a little taquito. And then you just want to make a lot of these little spheres, and you want to flatten them out, and then using foam, this especially to make flower petals, and a ball tool, you want to put your piece right on there and then use the ball tool to shape it to look like a petal. Then I just add a little bit of water to it to help it glue on, and you just glue it on. It's super easy and super simple, and you just want to repeat this process to make the flower as big or as full as you want it to be. So because I want these flowers to be nice and flat, I'm using my pizza cutter and I'm just cutting right underneath the bud. So with a little bit of frosting, I'm just going to go ahead and put these all around the cake, spacing them as evenly as I can. And using a little bit of water as glue, I'm just placing those little gold beads right at the bottom of the top tier just to add some shine and add some interest to the cake. So now we are almost done with the cake. Yay! It's time to add the flower, which is the showstopper. I'm using these fake flowers that I found at Michael's. I love them because they look so realistic. You can use a real rose if you wanted to. You just have to make sure that you make it food safe. So as not to deal with all of that, we are using a fake rose. Now we have to finish the construction of this cake. I want to make sure that it stays together. So here I have a wooden bamboo stick or a wooden bamboo dowel, and I'm putting it all the way through the cake. It is going to puncture the cake board that the top cake is sitting on, and that is what we want. So with a pencil, I'm just marking the top of that cake, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Now, if this was a just regular cake, I would cut it where I marked it, but because we're going to be putting the flour in the same hole that we're going to be putting the skewer in, I marked it just a little bit smaller. You just want to make sure that it goes through that cake base in the middle so that it stays all together. So I'm just going to put that inside, and then I'm going to use the flour to further push it all the way in, and then I just cut off some petals from one of the other roses, and this dome I found on the internet. I'll link it down below. I'm using a paintbrush with a little bit of water for the dome, just so that the fondant reacts to it and makes it a little bit tacky so that the dome sticks right on. And that is it. We are done with the cake. Thank you guys for sticking with me if you've made it this far. And make sure to check everybody else's videos out down in the description below because they are amazing, amazing. So I hope to see you guys in another video. I love you so much. Bye!